Good evening. Welcome to Expat in Science. I'm your host Raju Mandhyan. Here at Expat in Science, we take external views of internal successes by foreigners, expats and immigrants who have made Philippines their home. Today we have two guests from two different countries. They look alike. One is from South Africa, a lady teacher from the International School of Manila, Juanita Ray, and she is going to help us out with innovations in education. And her partner for today, Professor Arup Maity from AIM, from India, and he's going to talk about technology, innovations in technology. Welcome to Expat in Science.
Thank you,
Arup and Juanita Ray.
Thank you.
Start by telling us about yourself a bit, Professor Arup.
Okay. I'm an Indian, of course, as you introduced. I did my engineering in India. I worked for a few years, and then I came over in Philippines and took up the MBA at Asian Institute of Management. After that, I worked for a couple of more years in some Philippines corporations and started something on our own, which is Blast Asia. And I also have been teaching at AIM since last 7 or 8 years.
You teach part-time?
Yes, I teach part-time, probably about 2 or 3 classes every quarter, and then it's roughly about not more than a month in the whole year.
Fantastic. Welcome to Expat Inside. Miss Ray, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm from South Africa. I've been living in the Philippines for the past 3 years. I started teaching in 2000, realized at some point that on a South African teacher's salary I couldn't afford to see the world, and decided to go exploring. Taught in Asia before, in Korea for a year, and then in the UK for 3 years, and
So
from there came to the
total number of
Philippines.
teaching years for you?
This is my 12th year.
12th year.
Yeah.
Okay, your first impressions of the Philippines when you came to this lovely country. I mean, first impact, first culture shock or cultural adjustment. A little bit into your past and what
So
brought you
we
to
landed, I came for, of course, taking up my MBA, and the first thing we noticed were nice looking taxis, actually.
Nice looking.
one of my classmates, his comment was,
Coming from India, those were nice looking
yeah,
taxis.
and at that time I think it was just changed, right? I mean, it was probably shifted over from the non-aircon to the new Toyota aircon taxis, and he said, hey, after MBA, if I don't get a job, I'm going to be happy driving the taxi.
Yeah, okay. Compared to India, Indian taxis have no side mirrors. You know that. You know why?
Yeah.
Too much traffic.
Yeah.
Your first impression, Miss Juanita.
I think I was just so excited to be back in Asia, because
Yeah.
I loved it the first time, and I think I was initially shocked at how huge Manila is and how busy and concrete and all of that.
Concrete jungle?
Yes.
Compared to South Africa?
Yeah. I think our big cities aren't as congested. They're a bit more sprawled out, but that's because of the land mass and space. And I think one of the first things that I do remember most how relaxed and friendly the people are.
They are not like that in South Africa.
Oh,
They are
yes.
they are relaxed and friendly too.
Yes, they are.
Okay, but more relaxed here.
Yeah.
Filipinos are much more relaxed.
Yeah, I had been living in London for 3 years before.
Oh, they're not
coming
relaxed over there. I know that.
And I'd been traveling on the tube and on the buses, and yeah, it's if you smile at somebody on the bus,
They kill you.
well, no, of
Okay.
course not. It's
I
just
thought so, I thought so.
it's not. Yeah,
And that's how Jack the Ripper was born. Somebody smiled at him and he ripped him off.
but it was just it's a different attitude, and yeah, and I enjoyed it.
I think I can connect to that also, because when we came, we came to with the idea, like, because the name is Republic of Philippines Island, so you were looking for island
Yes.
somewhere, right? I mean, when we were landing, so we saw 2 huge buildings still
This was
there.
your first ever trip out of India.
No, I went to few other places, but yeah, I mean, over here, Philippines was the first time. And when we were landing, we saw these two huge buildings, and then everything was like, you know, fishing village and all that when you are passing by. So we were wondering, wow, so maybe those two are the AIM buildings or something. But obviously that was not the case. And when we landed, then we were on the rivers, like, okay, so where is the sea? I mean, you know, it's an island, so we're supposed to have a beach or something. And it took us really long before we could see the beach. So the first holiday we got, we said we're going to go to a beach, and we picked up the map.
When you say we, is that you and friends?
Some
or
of my
you
classmates and all who
okay.
came over together. I was not married then. So yeah, we kind of picked up the map and said, hey, we got to find some good place to go, and we want an island where we can kind of see the ocean or the sea on the side. So we chose 100 islands. We took a bus, we went to 100 islands, and we said, okay, if we are going to see islands, we got to see 100 of them. And yeah, that was the start. So that was one thing, like, you know, you are expecting more islandish. I don't know what that is, but you know, when you come here,
7,000 islands, except for Luzon, except for Metro Manila, it doesn't look like an island.
I don't think I realized either that I was on the biggest one and very, very far away from
Okay, you and I, the three of us today, we're going to talk about information technology or technology in the generic form and education. We'll create a relationship between the two disciplines, and we'll talk about the new innovation. New innovation, that's a redundant statement. Innovations in technology and education. But before we delve into the depth of the subject matters, how good has Philippines been to you in the 15 years that you have been here and in the 3 years that you have been here? So this time you go first, Miss Ray.
Okay.
Yeah. How good has it been? What has it done for you as a human being, as a girl, as a teacher?
I see the Philippines as my second home.
Okay.
And I've said this to my friends back home, my family, people here. Very early on, I noticed lots of similarities, and I think maybe that influenced my openness to being here. What has it done for me? It's really changed my life. I have met amazing people. I have learned some of the biggest lessons that I've learned so far whilst being here. And I think I mentioned it earlier. I think the Philippines has the world's biggest problems and also the world's biggest solutions.
You didn't mention this earlier. I never heard about this.
Oh.
It has the biggest problems and it has the biggest solutions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I'd like to ask you how so, but maybe not now. Later on I'll ask you how so. Arup, how good has Philippines been for you?
No, it has been fantastic. Actually, I grew up in India also, sort of a traveler, because my dad used to get posted every 3 to 5 years. So
all across India?
All across
What
India.
business or profession was your dad in?
He has been a doctor in the defense services. So, you know, every 3 to 5 years we get moved, and so, you know, in India they call it Bharat Darshan. So we have been doing that.
Bharat Darshan, that means India viewing.
Viewing India from different places, and what best way to view a place than staying there and you know, interacting with the people. So I did not have this thing about, you know, that you have to be a tourist or you're new. I mean, first of all, I grew up by traveling. So anywhere I go, it becomes a home easily to me. And the same thing happened with Philippines. It was just like another transfer sort of. And but I was amazed by certain things that I found here, like, you know, the patience in people. That was a learning. Yeah, I mean, you know,
done good to you.
Yeah, it definitely, you know, it was a part of the learning. And I mean, of course, in India we want everything 5 minutes ahead. Over here, there's that time to think that, okay, maybe the world is not going
5 minutes is no
stop
big issue.
in 5 minutes, and you know, you are more tolerant, and I guess it makes you more human, without losing out on your targets and ambitions.
All right, we'll be taking a break, no? And before we take the break, just a definition coming from you on what is technology or what is information technology. If you want to stay there, just 1 minute or 30 seconds, and 30 seconds for you, what is education? What does it mean? Before we talk about innovations in those two areas.
Um, okay, so I'll go first, I guess.
30
right?
seconds, 30 seconds, wrap.
Information technology is nothing but what we need in terms of information in doing what we do, whether in work, in education, in life. So, you know, we need information. Information makes what we are. And the way to get it on time, easily, is the technology that makes it
To
happen.
move it around, to transfer it, to store it, to forward it, to churn
Everything.
it, to, okay, that's information technology. And education, Miss Ray, what is that? And how do we innovate on that?
Education is really how we live. It's an attitude to learning. It's not what we learn. It's how we learn it and how
Right.
we keep those lessons and keep applying them and changing them in different situations.
All righty. So how we change with it.
Yes.
Not what it is on the book, but what it does to us, to humanity.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So welcome to Expat Insights. We'll take that break and we'll come back and talk about growth and development in these two areas. So thank you for watching Expat Insights. I'm with Arup Maity and Ms. Juanita Ray, and we are talking about innovations in technology and education. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Nice, in fact, with a little bit of structure. Welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. We are still talking to Professor Arup Maity of AIM and the CEO of Blast Asia, and to Ms. Juanita Ray, teacher at International School Manila, and she's going to be joining the Riverside School in Ahmedabad, and we are talking about innovations in technology and education. Arup, so technology, information technology, moving it around, what does it do to us? What does it do to progress and progress of humanity itself?
Well, it has affected in every way we live and
Yeah.
work. So let's see, for example, today when you go out of home, you probably switch on the navigation in your car, or before you get into the car, probably you have checked the what's happening on the traffic and other things. I mean,
Yeah.
all of this are information flowing to you.
Yeah.
And you know, you're probably carrying one or two or more cell phones with you at any point of time, and,
Yeah.
and probably all of them are nowadays connected with the internet.
Yeah.
So at any point of time you like something, we are becoming more instant in everything. I mean, probably it is reducing our time to contemplate and all. Maybe that's
Yeah,
one
we're
side
becoming
of it.
e-did boxes on wheels.
Well,
I'm just
not
kidding. I'm pushing.
necessarily, but yeah, there is a good possibility someone can go in that direction.
Yeah.
So sometime I guess there is a need for stepping back and figuring out whether the technology was meant to help us or it's enslaving us with it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a tremendous power, and it's
Yeah.
up to us what we do with it.
Okay. How are we doing with it now? Are we handling it well, or are we becoming slaves to it? What's the trend today? As of this moment, if you take a higher picture, if you take the helicopter view, as you
Right.
professors call it.
Well, yeah, it's definitely becoming a major part of our life.
Yeah.
Lot of times it can become like an addiction, whether it's like a video game or
Yeah.
people getting stuck on Farmville and other
Farmville,
games on Facebook. But you know, that's part of game dynamics, and it has always been there. It's just that now being delivered through internet
Media.
and media.
Yeah.
But it has very good effect in a lot of other areas. For example, education. It's in the process of changing and making it ideally what it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because whether it's in business or in education, the last centuries have been producing what you call industrialized or mass production of certain
Cars
things,
and
right?
toothpaste.
So you know, when you, it's like segmentation was supposed to be when you do marketing, you say segmentation, so that white 30 years working, so they must all like this. That is changing with more information now. So you know, it's like reaching to what you call segment of one. So you know, the providers
What does that mean? What does it mean?
more
What do you
individualizing.
mean segment of one?
I mean, earlier everyone was like, you know, there was a time when Henry Ford said that you can have any car, any color you like in the car as long as it's black. Obviously, no one would say that today anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was one time when the industrial world was producing something and sending it to one set of people. And
So we had to take what was given. And
then there
today-
was an enhancement.
Yeah.
People said, okay, there is the yuppies and there is the baby boomers and there is the kids, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
they have a different taste. So that was the segmentation.
Yeah.
That was during
That was level 2.
that was level 2,
Yeah.
where you know you kind of got into that. And then the next part, so at that time there was like, you know, products are being somewhat customized, product, service, whatever you take, education was somewhat being customized
Yeah.
to that segment.
Yeah.
Uh, today, with more information, with more individualization possible, what you are doing is it's becoming, you are the segment. So it's a
So
segment
just
of
an
one.
individual, just me alone, and I get what I want.
Yes, because you know, people were not built like machines. People were meant to be different. In fact, that's what makes it wonderful.
I don't know, Juanita, do you agree with that? People are not built like machines? I thought they are all built like machines. You know? You have South Africans, you have Indians, these are segmentations. I'm just kidding. What's your opinion on what Arup is saying? That we are not being treated as objects or machines. Are we not? By the market, by advertising, by these IT specialists.
We are.
Yeah, so there you go. She disagrees.
No, she
wait.
agrees to that point, but
To
I
that
guess,
point.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
but that's what we are at level 2.
Yeah.
To move to level 3 in
Yeah.
all segments, whether it's what you buy or what clothes you like, or whether it's how you are educated,
Yeah.
it's going to change, and it's slowly reaching there. Of course, you know, these are institutionalized and it doesn't really change overnight. So there is and beyond technology, there is the mental blockade. I mean, a lot of people from each of this area who are supposed to be the experts of each have their own way of thinking what is right. And of course, as human being, we always want to do what we think is the best.
What does this mean? I have to understand. Go slowly on me. You went so fast on me. Did you get what he said?
Now you have to back up that.
You have to
last
back that up a bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Go slow. Give me an example.
So, you know, we always like to do what we think is best for our kids, right? So, you know,
Okay.
it's our own value system and what we think is right.
In my paradigms, I need to promote
It's
my
your
paradigms.
paradigms.
Okay.
And in most areas, whether it's marketing or retail or education, there are the industry leaders, there are the experts who
Oh,
have
they were
their-
creating my needs, you're saying?
Yeah,
Or at
and-
least they were helping me create my own needs.
so they're still stuck at segment 1.
Okay.
Even though technology has moved to level 2 or level
Correct.
3 rather, not all of them are ready yet to utilize the benefits the technology can bring. So yeah, that's why even though technology is ready, it's not yet being adopted the way you
So
would
they're
want.
not yet allowing individuality or letting us practice it.
Yes,
sense.
in so many ways.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not like they don't want to, or they're like stopping
They just
it.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's probably, and it's more difficult. I mean, you know, it's easier to make one rule like in a company.
Well, let me try to rephrase this.
Sure.
You're saying that the monster of information technology has not been harnessed yet by industry leaders. Is that the statement? Is that a good metaphor for it?
Yes, in so many ways, because
Yeah.
you know, it's not only what the experts can do with it, but it's
Yeah.
also the availability of information. So like, you know, even the users have to move up to a certain stage, and the ones who will do something with it can only do, like, you know, till I know your preferences in terms of a data, I cannot process and provide it to someone.
Okay. So you're saying we handle the IT in such a way that we become much more fine-tuned to market demands and to individual needs. So to be able to manage that.
It's growing, it's evolving, and it's a process. So you know, it will take its time, and sooner or later you will see the changes
We'll
coming
catch up
in.
to it. Okay. How is it doing for you from your perspective as a teacher, as an environmentalist? Are you that? Because you do some gardening at the international school.
Yes,
huh?
I do.
So you want to tell us a bit about that and relate it to what
Yes,
Arup is saying?
I will actually. You mentioned earlier about the about industrialization and products and being treated like machines, and you've just had a conversation about needs,
Convert everything to a commodity. Yeah?
Right.
Yes, and in thinking about through the education lens, it's very much the same. It's exactly the same, because what we have is an education system that was largely designed to meet a particular need at a specific point in time, and that was the Industrial Revolution.
200 years ago.
Yes.
The Industrial Revolution was 1600, 17th century.
It started catching off around then.
After Renaissance. Okay.
And obviously things have changed since then. The jobs that are needed now compared to 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
2 years ago. A year ago. It's different.
Just a year ago, not 500 years ago, but yeah.
It's changing, and it's in direct relation to the trends in technology that Arup is talking about. And does it make sense for the education system to be producing the same results that aren't needed?
Also, in both cases, in terms of industrialization and in terms of education, you're saying the systems are so old that they haven't caught up to the information age or the age of imagination which is entering right now. Is that what you're trying to
partly, basically, whether
so the
it's at the
industrial
level
systems few hundred years from Henry Ford era up,
right,
and the educational system from the Renaissance period and up has not caught up, or at least hasn't been modified yet.
It hasn't been modified. It's been continued in a very similar fashion with a very huge focus on academics.
So thus the world is investing a lot of time, energy and money into efforts that may not be beneficial to the individual in the long run.
In fact, there has been studies that proves that the creativity actually dies with the number of years of schooling.
Because of the current mode of schooling, current methods of schooling.
Yes.
Right.
And I think we're talking about the very same experiment.
Great. So we have now defined the challenge. Yeah? Coming from Arup's point of view, in terms of industrialization and in terms of education. Now, what are we doing? What are you doing, Arup, you and your community of IT specialists? And what are you doing at the international school? And also you represent Design for Change.
Yes.
So what are these two schools doing to make things new? What is Design for Change doing? Or what is international school doing, if you still want to talk about ISM?
Well, I'm gonna talk about Design for Change.
Okie dokie.
Because it is a link to something that you identified me as a bit earlier as well, as an environmentalist.
Yeah.
I don't call myself one, but
gardener.
A gardener.
Okay,
yes, I'm a
that's
gardener.
nice. Okay.
Design for Change is really about thinking out of that box and out of that system, and looking at
the one that we previously described.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And looking at and providing, creating a space for children to express what they care about, what problems they identify in their community, and go through a process of being empowered by taking action and seeing the results and seeing the change that can lead to. And it is a real life application of knowledge and skills that are taught in classrooms, but applied in the bigger classroom.
The world.
The world.
Yeah. So Design for Change is a project, it's a mission, or is it a brick and a mortar place somewhere in the world? What is Design for Change? It's an institution, or it's just an idea? What is it? Can you define it a bit more? Where does one go for learning about Design for Change?
Okay, you could log on to the website, which is www.dfcworld.com, or you could be like me and find a talk on TED Talk by Kiran Bir Sethi. Very inspiring talk. And that's exactly how I got involved. And I'd actually like to tell you about that.
Please go ahead. Yeah, be my guest. Oh, you are my guest already. Okay.
So last February, one night, I went on to TED in
TED Talks, by the way, let me just TED Talks is a website, a portal where innovative ideas in education, industrialization, anything under the sun is put across. That's TED Talks. So you saw this on February. You saw this in February?
Yeah. So I went on to TED looking for some inspiration and specifically looking for something in education.
Yeah.
I mean, I had watched some talks by Sir Ken Robinson, who is a
Right.
leading creativity expert.
Innovator, yeah.
Yes. And I found this talk, and I sat and cried for the.
You sat and cried.
I sat and cried.
What was in it that made you cry? What churned up your emotions?
It was like listening to myself,
Oh, okay, okay.
listening to my own heart, listening to why I'm with children every day.
Right, okay.
And it was the perfect articulation of my own
Purpose, being. Yeah.
purpose
Yeah.
in terms of the classroom, and it very much provided a framework for what the process that my students had been going through.
In all these countries that you taught, that includes UK, Africa, and one Asian country you mentioned?
Korea,
Okay.
more especially the students that I was teaching
in the Philippines.
last year at that time, because we built a community garden at our school, and the exact same design process that Kiran describes as, making children aware of their own abilities leads them to then recognize that they can actually do something about it, and that empowers them, and that makes them want to go bigger.
Okay, can you spell out the framework and the process? What is
Right.
it? What is the framework?
The framework
We
is,
have 1 minute for a break, so
Okay.
take a minute or so to define the framework, and then we'll come back to you. Arup. So go ahead.
step one,
Yeah.
feel. What is it that you care about in your community?
This is for children, or this is for everyone on the...
Well, I'm defining design
For
for
kids.
change as well, because
Okay.
you asked what is it. It's
Yeah.
a way of thinking. It's a
Okay.
way of approaching any situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Feel.
Feel.
Okay.
What do you care about? 2, imagine. Imagine a solution. Create a solution. Imagine it, visualize it. Work together with a group. Scrum. Put your heads together.
What is Scrum? What is Scrum?
Arup should
is-
describe that.
Arup, what is Scrum quickly?
Scrum
because
is a project management or a development
it's
methodology.
IT. It's IT. Okay.
It started at IT,
Yeah.
but it now gets applied to a lot of other things. So it's like, it's a agile, lightweight way of doing anything.
Like in football, like in rugby.
It
Put your
started
heads
from the
together.
rugby
Put your
term.
heads together.
Put
Right.
your heads together.
Okay. Go.
Okay,
So
then-
feel, imagine, Scrum.
Do.
Do like Nike.
Do.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So do it. Implement this idea for change. Manifest it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
And it can happen in a week. It can happen for the year. It can be as ongoing and sustainable as
Yeah.
you design it. And the last step is share. Tell the story.
Share.
Share it with the world.
Okay. Feel, imagine, Scrum, do, share. That's the framework.
Feel, imagine, do, share.
No Scrum.
It's part of
Part of it.
Part of it.
In between, it's not highlighted. Okay.
It's not
So
highlighted.
we'll take that break and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about, we'll take examples on both sides, in technology and in education, what we're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We are on Expat Insights, and I'm with Arup and Juanita. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan, and we are talking to Professor Arup Maity and teacher Juanita Ray, and we are talking about innovations in education and technology. So she just cited
Design
repeat the
process.
framework again. Repeat the framework again. Feel, imagine, do,
share.
spread it. Okay. So cite me an example of what has happened with this framework across the world. You think I hear you being conversant with it also. So you want to share about it?
I know a little bit about it, but it's another example of what technology has done. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole design for change started only about 3 to 4 years ago.
Design for change, the project, the
Yes.
mission, the plan, the idea. Okay.
In one place in India.
Yeah.
And today, with of course with the ambitious mission of reaching out to 1 billion lives, and in 4 years it's not too far from there. Probably it has reached out to several corners of the world, like Bhutan to Brazil, in different parts of the world, and in so many ways the children are contributing to the change, and probably they are doing certain things to change, but along the way they are the one benefiting the most.
Can you cite an example, a little small example that I can see and feel and imagine, something that happened in the neighborhood of what has been done by Design for Change?
Okay.
Any country, any ethnicity, any background, doesn't matter. Quick story, yeah.
Well, I'd actually like to share the story our story at our school.
International school,
Yes,
fantastic.
yes.
That's closer to home. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was an interesting one because it wasn't something that started after I found the design process and after I watched the TED Talk and got introduced to Kiran. It was something that was already happening, but it was in complete alignment with whatever she was doing.
Oh, something you'd already started,
Yes.
and then you found this alignment, and
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
surged your energies ahead. Okay.
Synergy and
What was
surge.
it? What exactly was it?
It was building our community garden.
Okay.
Because after Typhoon Ondoy, after we got involved with disaster relief, the 6 and 7-year-old kids in my class were going deeper in terms of what is the problem.
Why did Ondoy happen?
Why did Ondoy happen?
Right.
Why was there so much flooding? And realized that there's a much bigger problem, and it wasn't the problem wasn't only
Just Ondoy itself.
no,
Yeah.
and it wasn't responding at that moment in that crisis. It was
Gosh.
yeah.
So did they understood ecology? They understood
Yes.
the interconnectedness of one thing to another.
You took the word
Out
out
your
of my
mouth.
mouth.
Fantastic.
Because we were learning about growth, and through that inquiry into growth, they realized that
I so wish we had pictures of this, no? But go
It-
ahead, share the story, create it for me. Yeah.
they realized that everything that they learned. One day we sat down and I asked them, "What did you learn about?"
How many kids were there, Juanita?
21.
All right.
They were 21, and from all over the world, right?
International, yeah.
And big pieces of paper, and they were writing on all these things that they learned. And then I asked them, okay, which bits are connected? And they drew arrows and arrows and arrows. And at the end of it, looked at it and realized, well, Ondoy is actually connected to our class recycling center because of what we put into our bin goes somewhere.
Right, goes to the waste
And
disposal.
and if it is not sorted out properly, then it's going to end up on a dump site or on a street. And if the streets are full of trash, then it actually is going to raise the water levels when it's raining, and then the mass flooding, and connections like those. And at the end of it all, they sat there and it felt like it was a mantra that they were all saying, which was,
So the kids today, these 21 kids, realize something that you and I, or maybe a generation ago, I as a kid didn't see. Or at least
they were
wasn't-
talking about biodiversity, they were talking about natural disasters, and they were talking about lots of things that blew my mind. It was just really blowing my mind. It wasn't that I was feeding them this information. It was actually
they were figuring it out for themselves.
yes, and they came to this conclusion that we are all one. Everything is all connected, and the space that gave them the opportunity to experience that was building that garden, because the imagine part of it was actually doing something. Okay, what can we do? We can do some planting. We should be caring about the planet. We should be taking care of our school environment. The doing was building the garden.
So 21 kids in Manila, 1 billion across the world. That's how much this is going to spread, no?
Well, actually, the idea is not only the kids, but the lives they touch on.
Right,
So even those 21
parents,
kids,
families,
yeah.
Exactly.
everyone, animals. Arup, so what does the future hold in terms of us managing the information technology in a much more holistic way, spreading the learning. What does the future hold? Cell phones and laptops and iPads and iPods and we being connected
Those are just
24/7.
means.
Those
Yeah.
are just means. Well, what does the future look down the line, say 50 years down the line for us?
Well-
Given that both of us, the learning and the technology, manage it well.
Well, you know, the belief in the world today, and
Yeah.
more and more people are reaching towards it, is that giving a module, like we teach people by module, right? Certain
Yeah.
things, maths, algebra, certain things, chapter, modules, etc. Are becoming more and more irrelevant.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you have seen the movie Matrix.
Yeah, I know. Download
right?
information.
Download.
Right, become a karate kid right away.
Exactly, and this, I mean, some of the experts are saying maybe in 30 years we can actually have some form of that.
So if I wanted to learn Spanish, all I had to do is just plug in a USB in my head and I'm fine.
Well, they say actually they talked about it in terms of language. So they said you can already pick up the vocabulary, but probably the grammar and all, the usage, you'll have to practice to
You'll
learn.
have to polish it a bit.
Right, like you saw, even though they were doing the karate in the mine,
Yeah.
but they were still practicing it later
Yeah.
to pick up more.
Yeah.
So, okay, so why is that relevant?
Yeah.
The reason it's relevant is
Yeah.
because the way of teaching now,
Yeah.
which is basically the teacher knows all and the student sitting and absorbing
Yeah.
everything, is probably
No more indoctrination.
exactly
Choosing your education. Okay.
So it's not how to or what they need to learn, but how to learn is what is necessary to be taught. Because information is at the fingertip today. I mean, when we started teaching at AIM, I was doing it probably like, well, AIM was doing it for much longer, but
Yeah.
I started like 7 or 8 years ago. And the internet was there, but it wasn't that big then.
Yeah.
And there used to be like, you know, we do case method and every case has a teaching note. So which is basically whoever wrote the case also wrote kind of like, okay, this is what happened. It's like a advantage to the teacher.
Quite boring actually. If you
Yeah.
ask me.
But today,
Yeah.
that has no meaning because,
So much more choice. Yeah.
no, not only that, your students actually can go and Google that same case and find out what has happened since then.
Yeah. So there's no need
So
to
that-
project it.
Yeah, that has become irrelevant. So now, if you are going to be a teacher, you cannot, I mean, of course, AIM methodology, which is the Harvard methodology, do not say there is one right answer. But as a teacher, you need to have a way to guide the discussion, and everyone learns, including the teacher.
Have them thinking. Have them.
And that's somewhat is the process which actually I also realized in terms of, you know, coming through a very formal education in India, including my engineering and everything. And when I landed up with the AIM classroom, that was a wow to me. Like, okay, you can learn this way. You don't have to write exams. You know, I mean, yeah, it was.
You don't have to really have test reports.
You go to the classroom and you discuss anything and everything, and you come out more educated and you pass.
Juanita, from your perspective, from the way you and Kiran Bir Sethi, the one who came up with Design for Change, what does the world look like? I mean, you are probably hitting 1 billion people, like Arup said, but beyond that, what will be the measurable effects on the planet? With the children getting smarter and the people getting smarter, what's your view? Can you paint a picture?
I imagine a world where we listen more to our children,
Yeah.
where we recognize that in many ways that they are guardians of being
Yeah.
and not necessarily
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
the being in the moment, the expressing themselves, them recognizing
Yeah.
their talents and exploring them. And Design for Change is about children designing solutions for the world's greatest challenges. Those challenges are our global issues. Those are the challenges. We know them.
Problems you and I created.
Problems we've
my forefathers
all
created.
created. Problems we are contributing to every day
Yeah.
with our daily choices, what we eat, what we wear, what cream we put on our face.
You're right.
Yeah, it's all of those things that really, and again, it goes back to what Arup was saying about the information. It's information overload. We have so much information to sift through and sort out, and if we don't actually have a process to guide our thoughts through that, it can be extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that? You can have a million ideas, a million concerns, but what are you going to do about it? And especially looking at the list of the global issues, where do you start? You know, I really believe, we really believe it starts with us. It's that change that we want to see in our world. It starts with us, and we've got to be the change we wish to see, as Mahatma Gandhi said.
Right. Okay. Now, thank you very much for being on this show. I loved what you said and loved the future that you have created. 1 minute each for possibilities on the Philippines. And you had solutions for the Philippines, so just mention, what does Philippines look like to you?
Well, Philippines is at the forefront of everything. It's one of the most open economies. It's the society is quite open, and I mean, the example of your expat insights show the amount of people. Yeah, I mean, you know, it brings in all these people and what they think about the the country and the possibilities,
it's a community
right?
of thought.
So obviously, it's set to benefit and grow with it, and the possibilities are wonderful.
Yeah. You, go ahead, your turn.
Okay. I'm in awe of the Philippines.
Correct.
And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned were through the voices of the children, and it was that we are all one. And by recognizing that interconnectedness, we can learn to restore that balance that is required for us to lead more sustainable lives. And the solutions are here. The solutions are really here. And the Filipino people are loving people. I'm constantly...
Island people.
loving people, caring people, heart people, and that's what we need. That's that first step. Feel. We feel it here.
Oh, we feel a lot here.
Yeah, we do. And then with the process of imagining how to create solutions, we can be empowered by those small actions that we can do every day. And there's so much of it in the Philippines.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being on Expat Insights, Arup Maity and teacher Juanita. God bless and Godspeed in everything you do. And someday, hopefully, I'll be around and we'll see a brighter, beautiful world. Salamat. Thank you very much. So that was Professor Arup Maity and Juanita Ray on Innovations in Education and Technology. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Thank you for watching. Next week, we'll have the Ambassador of Cambodia, same time, same channel. Good night and salamat po. Thank you.